Hello, everyone. This is another edition of the Hidden Artist Village podcast. And my guest today is Nathan Nokes. Can you
Hey,
introduce yourself, Nathan?
hey, how's it going? Nathan Nokes, pro voice actor here in Houston, Texas. How goes it?
Good, good, man. I've been wanting to talk to you primarily because I'm a huge advocate for people living their authentic lives, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen the way you've carried yourself throughout this entire time on social media, how you carry yourself like a professional, and that's like what really made me wanted to like interview you for the most
Well,
part.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So so how has life been for you?
Recently, it's other than the chaos that we're seeing on social media, everything's been good. Like I said before we got on, just planning on moving up to New York, working with some major agencies right now. Working on Genshin. That's been a major project right now. But yeah, just living day to day life. Everything's good.
Awesome. That's such a big move. Like I've never been to Houston, Texas. I've been to Dallas last year for the Bang Zoom competition,
Nice.
but never Houston. Do you think that's going to be such a big change to go to New York? I don't know if you've been to New York before.
So I've lived in New York
Yeah.
before. It definitely will be a big change. There's not a whole lot to do here in Houston other than NASA and eat.
Oh,
Or if you like the museums, you can do that too. So that's why I tell people, I said, if you like to eat, come to Houston. But if you want to do everything else, there's no need to come. Especially in the summertime, because it'll be like living on the surface of the sun. So yeah, Dallas is really cool. It's really nice. Austin is another place I really like. Austin a lot. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be different because New York obviously is much bigger than Houston. Um, yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good stuff.
that is so exciting. I don't know how the voice acting industry is in Houston. I understand how it is in Texas, with the anime stuff. Like, can you speak on that a little bit for anybody that lives in Houston?
Yeah, so that's the one thing actually I was talking to my Austin agent about was it even worth my time to go to Crunchyroll to just try to sign with them? Because you have to be in Dallas or you have to be able to get to Dallas. So it's like for anyone that's a 4 hour drive to Dallas. So especially if you get signed on with a character that's a series regular, you're driving up to Dallas 4 hours one way just to do the show. And anime doesn't pay a whole lot. So I'm like, it's not really worth it. They do say that, you can do the cons and all that stuff and that makes up for it. But again, the character one has to be likable and it has to be a pretty big show. If it's not either one of those, then you're kind of wasting your time almost.
Yeah, no, I get that. And time is honestly, as you get older, you kind of realize time is so much more valuable than
Yeah,
mostly everything besides family. But
absolutely.
like, yeah, no, awesome. Excited for you on that. And so, how did you get into acting and like where'd you start actually?
So I did a little bit of acting, like a lot of people do in school. I was in theater class and, we did all kind of silly things. But the biggest thing for voiceover was when Don LaFontaine's Geico commercial came out. I saw
Mm.
that and I was like, what is that? I said, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So I wanted to do that. I found a school that taught how to do voiceover. I'm teaching at that school now, which is pretty kind of crazy. But yeah, and then just kind of learning the industry along the way, bumping my butt along the way, trying to figuring out how to get agents, how to make a demo, how to sound non announcery, how to sound conversational that we hear all the time. Man, if we had $1 for every time we heard conversational, we'd be rich people.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like for me, I don't know if you're like this or if other people are like this, but I had to fail so many times and then
Same.
and then I had to hear my auditions back and I'm like, "Oh, why did I don't sound real. I don't sound
Uh,
like me." Like have you had that self-reflection at times in your career?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, when I'm teaching my students, I let them listen to my very first demo because when you have your demo, it has to sound. There's got to be some range in there. My first demo had zero range, none. And so I said, when you do your demo, you don't want this. When
Okay.
when you become ready, you don't want this. And so I drill that into their head to make sure that they know we need to get some range into that demo because you're spending a good amount of money on a demo,
Hmm.
especially with a reputable, producer. So, this is an investment that you want to do well on.
For sure. And, some people will ask, like, okay, when you say range, what do you mean? Like, some people will automatically think, oh, I can just change my voice, make it a pitch higher, lower. Okay, that's range. But not really. There's like
Yeah.
emotional beats. There's different genres if you're doing like a video game demo that you should tackle or
Yeah.
anime too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because even within the commercial world, a lot of the commercials now are becoming mini movies, right? They're very cinematic, especially some of the ADT commercials that have come out recently, the Verbo commercials that have been coming out recently. They're real down here. Nothing. It's just a Verbo. Whereas some of the commercials, like if you have I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese, if familiar people are familiar with that, but like a kid's place where you eat pizza, like Cece's Pizza or something, it's gonna be way up here. It's exciting.
Yeah.
So range is much more, like you said, than changing your voice or I can sound like Yoda or I can sound like this guy. That's fantastic. But I tell my students, it says, bring yourself into this, right? Voiceover is not about imitating things. It's
Yes.
about you. And so that's where that range comes in is, how do you sound when you're talking to a baby versus talking to a lawyer versus talking to your parents, right? And so all of that is included in range.
Yes, and I love what you said, like bring yourself into it, right?
Yeah.
There's even a book. I don't know if you've ever taken a class or have met Darren Dunstan before, who's with Yu-Gi-Oh! He's like the director of it. But he actually, when I was in his class, he introduced us to this book. It's called Audition. And literally the first 10 pages, it literally says what you said just now. Bring
Nice.
yourself into it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, so great advice. And I was going to say as well, so what is your favorite genre? Because you're very versatile. Like, you go everywhere.
Well, thank you. That was one thing I was taught early on is to have a diverse voiceover career, right? Because if you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because if that company goes under, there goes all your revenue, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so learning, training, and the way I got into it was training with coaches in commercial, training with coaches in anime specifically, because anime and animation are two different things. And if we've listened to it, if you watch Big City Greens on Cartoon Network, it's not the same as anime type stuff. So
Yeah.
learning to coach with individuals in that genre. So that's what I've tried to do over the years is try to coach with those individuals because I want to try to do as many things as I possibly can. I exclude audiobooks. I leave it for the people that can do it. My brain can't handle audiobooks, but I try to do as many things as I possibly can. And just recently getting into radio imaging, which is the 104, on the
Yeah.
radio. So that can be steady income as well. But it's fun because you can be so creative with it, right? Because the producer doesn't really give you much to go off of. So you get to implement your own creativity into, that radio station or even the character. For example, Genshin, you can implement your creativity in doing all of those characters.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Like, I see right now, you've been on Pizza Hut as a commercial. Like, I can resonate with that too. I was the voice of Pizza Hut in Spanish.
Oh,
I
nice.
believe, yeah, so this was 2023, and I was struggling. Like, I got signed with my agent in 2023 in January, and I wasn't booking. I booked my second ever audition, which was a game.
Nice.
But after that, it was just dry. And I was like, why
Yeah.
am I not booking? I just had to get coaching, like you said, and I listened back to my auditions and I saw where I went wrong. And I auditioned for Pizza Hut and I got it. It was
Nice.
my first like big national commercial. Like how did that feel for you? Like whenever you booked like that commercial that just, you know?
Well, it was funny. So I booked a Lego, and this is where you got to be careful. So I booked a Lego national commercial. So I
Mhm.
knew it was Lego. I had no idea it was going to be national because this wasn't with an agent. It was with a production company that I had cold emailed. And so I had no idea. To me, it was just going to be some little local thing, right? It was going to be, I don't know, at some store or something. At least that's what the thing or the rate looked like. Then I'm over here, go to iSpot.tv and see my Lego commercial, and I'm like, "What?" I mean, it blew me away. Like it was awesome, but at the same time, I'm like, "Hey, you guys didn't tell me this was a national commercial."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "What's going on here?" But yeah, it was really cool to be able to see it in the wild, and even on iSpot.tv. So that was a lot of fun. But that was actually quite a few years ago, actually now. But yeah, it's cool to see all of your stuff. Like, I mean, I worked on a 26 episode kid show last year that is just now coming out, and the first 5 episodes are out on Vimeo. So it was fun to see that too.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and you do have a very versatile voice too. Like you can sound very young and you
Hmm.
can sound very adult. Like I feel like I don't really fit into that where I have like a deep voice
Yeah,
naturally, so it's a bit harder for me to go a little down, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
been a lot of coaching just to learn because you've got your head voice, you've got your front voice, and then you've got your chest voice. For example, like when you're talking to your dog, you're like, "Oh my god, hey," that's way up here, right? And
mhm.
if you're just talking to somebody, this is going to be your front voice, and then when you come down here in your chest, this is where you're talking having a serious conversation, like maybe an intervention with a friend or something. And so once you, at least for me, once I understood what those felt like, it really helped me to much easier get into that character. Like if it's a dad, I'm going to use my chest voice. If this is a teenager, it'll be more up in my head voice. So just learning what the client is looking for, what character they're looking for, and then where I'm going to put that voice at.
Awesome. Okay. Good stuff. So I was gonna ask as well, like, what's your favorite games of all time?
So I just finished playing Star Wars Outlaws. I love Star Wars. If you ask anybody that knows me, I've got the big Millennium Falcon Lego set right over here. I've got, we went to Disney World. We did all the things, Star Wars. So I love Star Wars. I just finished playing Outlaws. I think that was my favorite game other than Jedi Survivor. And I think Jedi Survivor is on the top of that list because I did coaching with Deborah Wilson, who plays Seer, which was one of the Jedi Masters in that game. And so we were able to really chat about her performance in that because, we always keep hearing be authentic, be authentic. And you're like, some people are like, what the heck does that even mean? Because you're stuck within these specs. But she's like, I brought me, into if I was a Jedi Knight. And I said, "Oh, okay, that's good." And then we broke it down even more. But yeah, I think right now, Star Wars Outlaws was probably one of my favorites. I just finished not too long ago playing Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom for Zelda, so that was fun. And then I grew up with Sonic too, so that kind of holds a special place in my heart.
Awesome, awesome. Was Fallen Order first or the second one?
Fallen Order was now I can't remember now. I think
I'm
Fallen
sorry.
Order was first and Jedi Survivor was second. I think. Don't quote me on that.
God, because I beat the first one. The
Yeah.
second one, I don't know why. It was just so much harder, like for me personally. But
I can't even remember. Now I'm trying to look it up and I can't even remember it now, but gosh, man, they're gonna get me for that one.
no, it's all right. I feel I grew up with different games too. Like I love Star Wars as well, but I got into it
Nice.
later. Like
Okay.
I played like Battlefront 2, which was oh my
Yes.
God. I love
Yes.
Battlefront 2. I my Darth Vader is like level 200. Like that's all I played.
I couldn't
Uh,
stand him. Couldn't stand him. He wouldn't let me go. I'm like, bro, let me try to defeat you. Yeah, it was I couldn't do it.
I couldn't I despised Boba Fett in that
Oh, really?
game. Yes, he was so annoying. Like, but it's fine. Um so that's amazing. I feel like when I grew up, I grew up like with rated M for mature. I grew up with
Yeah.
like God of War. I grew up with
Rated M for mature. Yeah.
yeah, like Call of Duty. Maybe not the
Yeah.
best things to grow up with when you're a kid,
Yeah.
but
Hey,
but
you do what you
still,
do.
yeah. So this is more of a pulling it back to a VO question. So what does it take to be a competitive actor and get an agent today, 2025?
That is an amazing question. And I'm going to kind of give you a lame answer. Every person is going to be different. The way they're competitive is going to be different than somebody else's competitive, just simply because we have so many genres. So to be competitive, but well, let's just say this. In general, you need to work your tail off. And what I mean by that is coach with reputable coaches. One thing I highly recommend to all my students is coach with the decision makers, right? Coach with the casting directors, coach with the agents, the people that you want to get signed with, because you can coach with other voice actors, which is great because that'll improve your technique, but you're not developing the relationships with those buyers. So Marilyn Wisner, Portia Scott, I know sometimes Atlas will do some things from time to time. So getting in with these, Jeff Howell does coaching, Terry Burland, these are the casting directors that you really want to build a relationship with, because now, when they're thinking of somebody like, okay, I know I've got Leo, he will be perfect for this spot. But they know exactly what they want. So they're going to teach what they want. So yeah, to be competitive, have a killer demo. You it's not unheard of that you can get a high-ranking agent, like a big one like Stewart, Atlas, CESD, with a homemade demo. I
Hmm.
wouldn't recommend it. It's been done before, but like I said, I wouldn't recommend it. So have a killer demo. It doesn't have to. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a demo, but it needs to be top notch. So what does that mean? Go to Atlas, go to CESD, go to SBV, and listen to their demos. What are they putting in the demos? What is the production quality of it? How long are these demos? Do they sound overproduced? And then start looking at who are reputable demo people. And if you don't know, you can reach out to them and be like, hey, who do you recommend as a demo producer? And they'll tell you. They work with certain people. I know JMC demos. His demos are not cheap, but they're some of the best.
Yeah.
Ear blowing. Now I can't. Ear blowing demos, and that's not the right name. But Eric Romanowski has some really, really good demos out there. There's a ton of them that you can find. So if you just do voiceover demos, just make sure it's not some little funky little class that you have 2 or 3 classes with, and you're like, all right, we're gonna make your demo. Make sure that the demo producer thinks that you're ready. So having a killer demo and amazing training, and then having really good marketing skills, because you can have 4 or 5 agents and you may not book that much. Because you think about it, when you have these agents, you're not the only one on their list. They probably have 40, 50, 100 people on their list, maybe even more. So being able to cold call production companies, getting on their roster. Some of these companies only have 10 or 12 people. And if you can be one of those 10 or 12 people, that means it's a lot less competition. So having marketing skills, having a killer demo, and getting the training by the decision makers, that'll keep you competitive.
Amazing, amazing. And yeah, so one thing I've learned as well was since if you know multiple languages as well, it helps you because I know English and Spanish. I
That's
literally
awesome.
did what you did. I marketed myself on LinkedIn one day and with voiceover hashtags, I had my demos in place and then I got a call. Um, yeah, I got a call one day and an email and then we just had a meeting. It was
Nice.
yeah. Um so what inspired your love for this? Because you have to love this to chase it and to
Yes,
deal with
this
everything.
voiceover is something that you must love, because it's a lot of work. You have to go in and you have to market yourself, because guess what? If you don't market yourself, nobody's going to know you exist. If you think about it, look at McDonald's. McDonald's been around for 100,000 years, right? Everybody knows McDonald's, but what do they do? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. You see that commercial all the time. So if you don't market yourself, you're not going to be relevant. People aren't going to know who you are. You know, it is a lot of things that go into, you know, making a voiceover career, but I think that's one of the bigger ones. You know, and I'm just going to keep rambling, but yeah, so make sure that, you know, you can market yourself well, basically.
Yeah, awesome. And that's something I've had to work on because I've struggled with it in the past, but we're always getting better at it for sure. So my other question is, which one of your roles do you love the most, or is it like picking your favorite child?
So I think, so one of my favorite roles, shockingly, I don't think is not Ororon from Genshin. I know that's going to shock a lot of people, but it was actually Mr. Biggie from Happy Heroes the Stones, and it was a feature animation dubbing that I did, and he was the most goofy villain I had ever seen. Right, so you know you've got these villains who are like top tier, like they'll kill everybody in their path, like the Thanoses, right? And then you've got these goober villains who aren't really villains, but they're trying to be. That was what he was. And so, you know, he was trying to steal the stone from the Happy Heroes, and, you know, he would always get hurt all the time. Like he walks out of his ship, and his assistant comes out and smashes the door, you know, on him, and he's like, "Oh, get off of me," you know. So when the real villains came in, he's like, "Hey, what's going on? No, I didn't want to really destroy the Earth." So I had a lot of fun doing that, but that was also one of my first dubbing gigs as well. And it was almost like a baptism by fire. So I had never done dubbing before that. And when I did that, I was like, "Woo, that was an eye-opening experience." But we got through it and we made it, and it's out now. Apparently it's not playing here in the U.S. currently, but it should be soon. I don't know. We worked on it like a year and a half ago, so I'm not sure.
Awesome. And when you say like you know, walked into some kind of wall, was it like the matching the lip flaps or internet connection, something like that?
Yeah, so most of the dubbing that I'd ever seen was the ticker tape, right? The karaoke, right? And this was
Oh, okay.
not what we were doing. Actually, from the very beginning to the very end, it was a completely different process. So at the very beginning, we were matching the lips, right? We were trying to do the efforts, you know, the as they're walking, or if they walk into a wall, or if they fall down. And then as it went, you know, as it went on, um, as the show went on, we didn't have, you know, at that point, like at the beginning, it was we had the lip flaps, it was all finished animation, and then towards the middle, it was unfinished animation, but the characters just kind of slid across the floor. It was animated, but their lips didn't move. And then the very last episode, all I had was storyboards. So, you know, trying to figure out how to even match these characters' lips was very difficult because at some point you had no lips at all. So you had to do the best you could. So I listened to, you know, the old or the other languages that were on there to try to match that as best I could.
Awesome. Okay. And that was one of your first gigs. Wow.
Well, it was my first dubbing gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
First dubbing.
was, yeah, my first dubbing gig was tough. And the crazy thing was, I hadn't had dubbing training up until that point. So that's also what made it really difficult was, you know, I was not experienced in the lip flap matching, you know, and trying to get the timing right. So, like I said, I was baptized by fire. So I learned really fast how to do it properly.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's not an easy task for anyone that's never done dubbing before.
Yeah.
I know you see it on TV and everything, and it looks effortless, but if you're like not trained, it's very hard. I've had to do dubbing for a couple of shows, and yeah, like you said, some of them aren't even available in the United States
Right.
as of yet.
Yep.
All right. So, how do you feel being a part of Genshin Impact as the voice of Ororon?
It's exciting. It's a really nice privilege because I know there was 1,000 other people that would love to be in my shoes, to be Auroron. And you know, I really appreciate Hoyoverse and Side allowing me to come onto this project and bring this character to life because I know Hoyoverse puts a lot of effort into building these characters, into the story. I mean, if you've played Genshin any amount of time, you know they're story heavy. and they know that their fans are going to fall in love with this character. So it's up to me to make sure that I bring him to life to the best of my ability. So it's really been a privilege and an honor to be able to be with these guys.
Awesome. Yeah, and I don't play Genshin too much anymore. I started in 2020, 2021 around that
Mm.
time, and I loved the game. I'm still a fan of it as well. I heard your performance as well, and I was like, yo, this is so cool. This is so nuanced, and you sound very comfortable. Like, you sound, like you said earlier, you're bringing yourself and just contributing to like a real world,
Yeah.
you know? So,
And yeah, it was interesting. I tell a lot of people this, that the voice that you're hearing now was not the voice that we auditioned for. So when I auditioned, it was more, hey, how's it going? Good to see you, plants. I'll see you later. And so, I mean, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, but I did 4 different callbacks, not knowing exactly what they wanted because they keep saying we want a different direction. They said, okay, let's try this now. Okay, we don't like that. Let's try this. And so they were trying to figure out what they wanted. And I had called up my animation coach and I'm like, hey, what do these guys want? And she's like, I have no idea, but let's try something. So we tried it something different and it was still in the head range area. It wasn't until I got cast that, because I sent different takes and stuff like that. And they're like, let's see, how low can you go? And I went down here. And they're like, that's what we're looking for right there. Keep that. So I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Ororon. Here's some cabbages. And they're like, yep, there it is. And so they were trying to pull that sound out of me, but I couldn't tell what they wanted. So we once we got on the call with Side, we
mhm.
were able to do that.
That's always the case, right? I feel I've heard that before too. The client sometimes doesn't know what they want, so you have to show them, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And I want to go back real quick because I know social media will correct me on it. It was with Formosa at the time, not Side. But yes, like you said, the client sometimes doesn't know what they want until they hear it. And so that's where, going back to what we talked about before, having the range to be able to try something. For example, I was talking to Dave Fenoy, and the one audition that he saw, originally the specs were for, no, originally the specs were for someone who sounded like him, real gruff and deep and things like that. They ended up going with a 6-year-old girl at the end of the day. So it's funny because, like you said, the client doesn't know until they hear it. So somebody probably heard her voice, threw it on the spot, and they're like, "Oh man, this is way better." So
Yeah.
when you don't get a call back, some people are just like, "Oh, I got rejected." Sometimes they thought, they're like, "Oh, this is what we want," and they're like, "Wait a minute, let's hear this," and they goes into a different direction. And sometimes you might be that different direction that they're looking for.
Awesome. That sounds like a roller coaster. You had to do 4 callbacks and you're just like in limbo, like what do these people
Yeah.
want?
Yeah, I had no idea. And up to that point, I had no idea it was for Genshin. It was codenamed, as like A6 or something. I don't know. The character was codenamed. I had no idea who it was. I didn't even have a picture of the character until the very last audition.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've had to deal with that too. And
Yeah.
yeah, oh my
It's
goodness.
super
So,
hard to figure out what you're going to do because you can't even see the character, you know?
yeah. Yeah, you don't even know their height. You don't know like anything. Like
Hmm.
I feel for me when I see the pictures, it helps tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's been like a bunch of stuff happening with Genshin, with the acting world. There's the introduction of the reintroduction of the No Fakes Act that we saw from SAG-AFTRA.
Yep.
So I was wondering like what is your opinion on if Genshin Impact turned from union to non-union? No, turned from non-union to
Non-union to
union.
union.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, a lot of people, they've talked about, where Hoyoverse is and all of that stuff. And I try to stay out of that because I don't know. I have not looked at their contract. I don't know what their contract says. I don't know what their laws are, all of that stuff. I don't know. I stay out of it because I'm non-union. So, but just to go back to talk about the union side, I respect and appreciate everything that they're trying to do. They're really trying to protect the actors. Because if you look at the 2024 letter, I want to say August 24th or August 14th letter about the narrative, right? About working with
Mhm.
narrative. And, that was their biggest thing is, okay, AI is here to stay, right? It's not going anywhere. So how do we work with it? So, they were like, okay, you can create a replica of yourself, but if a client is going to use it, we have to be told and we have to be compensated for it. And so that's one thing that I really appreciate what they're doing. Nava is trying to help out too with their rider that you attach to other contracts. So like I said, AI is not going away. It's not taking jobs to a major degree. Yes, it does take some jobs, but I liken it to the computer. Right back in the 50s, when the first computer came out, they said it's going to take over everyone's job. We obviously know that that's not the case now because we use computers as a tool. And so that's kind of, I think, the way SAG sees it as well is AI is not going home. It is not going to be shut down. And in my personal opinion, it's not going to shut down the industry. It's just going to be a tool that can be used from time to time. Should we use it all the time? I don't think so. We still need the creative part. We still need voice actors. Now, let's say if you have a small client that is going to put a social media ad for 5 seconds, for a week. Okay, sure. Yeah, you can use AI for that. But for the most part, people want to hear human beings. And so that's where I come in is, I've talked about it before that I do use AI from time to time, but it's not for big clients. It's for these teeny tiny little mom and pop shops that really don't have the budget for a full-on voice actor, but they still want to use it. So we talk with them, we write the contract, we do the AI writer. A lot of protections are involved with that.
Awesome. Yeah, and I don't think people understand too. It's not just voice actors that are affected. It's recording studios, it's
Yeah.
producers, directors. It's a big snowball effect.
Yeah.
Like voice actors aren't the only people that it was threatening, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, I use AI when it comes to ChatGPT, just to learn things. I ask ChatGPT everything. I'm pretty sure ChatGPT is tired of me already at
Right.
this
Yeah.
point.
Right. It's like, how
But
do I figure this out? How do I do this?
but no, it's helped me tremendously. Like realistically, humans, they want the thing that is the most accessible, the fastest way. So I really appreciate it for that. But yeah, I just never wanted it to replace jobs. And
Yeah.
I
No.
don't think it will. I feel people are afraid, and as they should, because with uncertainty comes fear.
Yeah.
So that's
Absolutely.
very understandable. So yeah, I don't know where the industry is going to go from here, but I'm very optimistic. I don't
Yeah.
think AI is going to take over the jobs. I think we're just going to come to a better place later on.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like you said, with the computers back in the day, you're right. They're the fear of the unknown. But I think once we properly regulate it, if that's even possible, we're seeing laws come out like the No Fakes Act. We're seeing, Karin and Tim Freelander and all of them going up to Washington to try to create these laws to prevent people from stealing our voices. I appreciate that 110%. If I'm going to use my voice for AI, I want to know what it's being used for, how long it's being used for, what am I getting paid for, or what am I getting paid? And, I want to make sure that I have full control of that. And so that's where those contracts and those AI writers attached to that contract helps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the whole industry, and there's been a lot of discourse within the Genshin community as well. There's just a lot of chaos. People just don't understand what's going on. Before, people were thinking, oh, it's about AI protection. And it was. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are just speculating that it's about agendas and stuff. Now, I don't know about that. I don't expect you or anybody else to really know about that too much. But in my opinion, if I can express it, I just feel Hoyoverse is based in Singapore, and I don't feel the need for them to conform to United States labor laws. Now, that could be controversial or not. I don't really think so, but it just felt forced. That's what the community is feeling. They're feeling like they're trying to force these people, Hoyoverse, to comply with SAG-AFTRA, the American Union. And I had to say this as well because I have to express I have to express how awesome it was to see you stand up for yourself and be an utmost professional in a time like this because the new VA that took over for I think his name was Kinich,
Hmm.
the character.
Yeah.
Uh, I believe his name was Jacob Takanashi. So he came and took over this role, and I have this bad relationship with bullying. I don't like when people get bullied. I hate it. So
Yeah.
when I saw the entire community come at him like that, it was disheartening. But when I saw you being a great person and just being you, it was like there's hope in humanity again, you
Thank
know?
you.
So I just had to express my gratitude with that, you know?
Thank you. That I mean, that's a big thing too, is because a lot of people, you know, at the end of the day, Hoyoverse is a business. They're going to run their business the way they see fit, right?
Yeah.
And nobody can tell them what to do. Only their board of directors and their owners can tell them what to do, right? And so I've seen a lot of people, I've seen on both sides bullying, I've seen on both sides attacking, and it's ridiculous. You can have an opinion, and I am all for that because that's what makes humans humans. They're allowed to have their own opinion. The way you express that opinion is where the problem happens. When you start cussing people out, when you start throwing them under the bus, when you start calling them names and doing all of these things, that's where the problem is. And so, yes, I feel for John who got recast. You know, I'm sorry that that happened. That was not a good thing that happened. But whether I welcomed Jacob or not, the recast was going to happen, right? So I had zero control. Shockingly, I did not have control over that. So it was just like, okay, well, you know what? You're the new guy. Welcome in. You know, I'm not, whether you push him, whether you say bad and nasty things to him or not, he's still going to be the character. So why be rude and disgusting to somebody that is out of our control going to be recast? You know, I mean, yes, you can say all you want about the SAG and you know how he was standing in solidarity, all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you say. He was going to be recast because that was Hoyoverse's decision.
I'm glad you said that too because I was saying this the other day as well. If it wasn't him, it would have just been someone else. That's not his fault,
Yeah, it would have been somebody else
you know?
because I mean, Hoyoverse at the end of the day, like I said, is a business, and you know if their customers are not happy, then they need to figure out a way to make them happy. And so one of those was, you know, a lot of them were tired of seeing muted characters. So like, okay, well, how do we resolve that? Call the guy. Hey, are you coming in? No. Okay, then we need somebody else to come in and cover that. So yeah, I mean, people can talk on social media about that all day long. I've seen it over the last week and a half. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's none of our decisions. So instead of bashing on somebody, because if Jacob said no, guess what? They would have got somebody else.
Yeah.
So just, you know, be a kind person and just say, "Hey, welcome to the team. Let's move forward."
Yeah, exactly. And me and my friend were talking about this like a week ago. We wanted to chase our dream, but also do it in a righteous manner where we
Yeah.
don't go against our morals, where we don't step on people to for gain.
Yeah.
And I really resonate with people like that, like yourself as well. So, yeah, guys, we just need to be nicer to each other. There's a lot of things we don't understand. But thank you so much for talking about that, because who knows what's gonna happen. But yeah,
Yeah.
so with John, he's a great talent. I took
He
classes
is.
with him as
He's an
well.
amazing guy.
Yeah, and I wish things didn't happen the way they did. I wish he
Yeah.
everything would have just worked out
Yeah.
without any issues.
Same here.
Um, yeah, Nathan. So how important is mental health as an actor, in your opinion?
I think even just as a person, it's going to be extremely important because, again, everybody's going to have their own opinion on social media. You're going to get attacked from every which way. So, I mean, as a voice actor, right? I've heard so many people say, "Oh, I get rejected every day," and I'm like, okay, well, let's get that out of our vocabulary, because just the fact of changing the word can change how we perceive things, right? So just simply not selected this time, right? Because if when you put out the word rejected, that means, oh, they didn't like you as a person, so get out of here. Right? It comes with a negative connotation. So I think even just changing the word can help your mental health, but not spending so much time on social media, right? Set a limit to what you're going to do, because you're going to see things. I mean, people are going to bully people. That's the world we live in, and it's going to happen. Hopefully, it's only a few people and you can block them or whatever, because at the end of the day, I don't have time to deal with nonsense on social media. I have a business to run, and I've got work to do. I've got work coming in every single day. Whether somebody says, whatever they want to say, okay, they're not paying my bills. I don't have time for that. So I need to get in, get my job done, and get out. And so if you're continuing to read these negative comments, it's going to affect your performance. It's going to affect how you deliver this character, whether it be in a commercial, whether it be in animation or whatever. So you don't want that to hinder your performance as an actor. So take care of your mental health. If you can't, help it, go see therapist. A therapist is going to be able to help you to get everything that's right up in here. But like I said, if you have to, get off social media. Like for the first couple of days when all of that happened, when Jacob got cast, I took X. I turned off the notifications because it was insane how much craziness was going on. So get off social media. Go outside. Go get
Touch
some
grass.
sun. Right, touch some grass.
The last thing I was saying is that, yeah, people can get influenced by negativity, so it's really good to just silence the noise,
Yes, silence the noise, and if you have to block, block.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your future goals in acting?
So definitely want to get into more radio imaging, like we talked about before, but even more, since I'll be moving to New York, more animation in that area, right? Because you've got animation in LA and you've got animation in New York. So trying to get more into animation, more into AAA video games. That's right now the goal. So this year I'll be focusing mostly on coaching with animation and video games as opposed to commercial.
Awesome. Are you looking to be a bicoastal talent? I was able to ask my agent if I could audition for Los Angeles projects, and if I was cast, then I'd have to go over there. Like, is that something you're willing to do?
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff, a lot of the projects I've done, actually all the projects I've done, is been through Source Connect. So now sometimes it'll say LA local, but a lot of the times for me, it's not worth flying out there, staying at a hotel, getting into the studio, flying back. You end up breaking even. But for me, it's like, I just, if it's through Source Connect, I'll do through Source Connect. If it's not, if it's LA local, I just, let the LA folks handle it. But I am, without saying who it is, in talks with a bicoastal agent as we speak. We're actually doing some testing right now with them sending auditions, and then hopefully in a week or two, I'll be signed and be able to announce who it is.
Awesome. Good luck to you. I hope all the
Thank you.
best on that. And
Thank you
so,
much.
yeah, so my last question here is there anything you'd like to say to the Genshin fandom during these times and all the fans that love you and your work in general?
Well, thank you, because without the fans, I would not have a job. So thank you very much. Thank you for all of those individuals who have made artwork for me, who have made jackets and hoodies and awesome things. Thank you for that. Also, take a breath. Go touch some grass. Get off social media for 5 minutes. Because I've had people express to me that it's distressing to them. It's disheartening to them. And I said, you got to get off. If there's one or two people that are rubbing you the wrong way, leave it, right? Leave it. You don't need that poison in your brain. Not everybody is going to agree with what you're doing. And that's the great thing about humanity is everybody has an idea. Everybody has a thought. That's okay. But if it's causing you distress, then get it out of your life, right? So play some Genshin, enjoy the game, and go breathe some fresh air.
Awesome. Great advice from Nathan Nokes. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. It's such an
Thank
honor.
you. Thank you for having me. It's been an awesome to talk to you, Leo. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. See you.